Hi, this is Nancy, and I'm doing this video for Scrap Mania. And this is a Christmas card class that we're going to do in October. And this is a virtual class that we're going to do. And I am using some images that are off of Diane Reevely, her Dylusions stamps. There's 2 sets, and they are referenced in your paperwork that you have. So in the paperwork that you've got, you'll have a picture and, of each one of the cards and a little information on how to put them together. Then you will also have, all the supplies that you'll need to do this. I'm gonna only probably show you how to do 3 or 4 of them. I don't think it's gonna be something that you need to watch me sit in color, but like here are 2 of them that are Christmas trees. And on the Christmas trees, it's pretty repetitious. We could do this one here because there's a little more involved, but this one isn't gonna be that much involved. And if you really don't want to get into shading, this is just a kit that you picked up, then this is a very easy card for you to do. You can see on this card here that I colored a little bit of the holly on the sentiments just to go along with that. And there's another thing maybe I should address is this is a sentiment sheet. This is from Stampendous, and I decided that I would give you this. You could choose whatever sentiment you wanted on the particular card that you make, or you don't have to use these at all, but I gave you this, so you'll just have to cut them out and put them on. And you can see these are also printed and stamped so that you can use alcohol markers on it. Like I did this one, we've colored just the holly, and I put some glossy accents on there. I've popped it up a little bit. On this particular one here that I did, you can see that on the deck the halls, what I did on the deck the halls, I have a little gnat flying around. That's great. And I just used a red marker and edged the side of that. So it kind of looks like you've got it stacked, but I just took a little bit of that red that white line around and put the red. So you could do that on each one of them if you wanted to. Then you have a little gem that's included in your kit. This guy here, he's stacked. It's on a 5.5-inch card. Again, I didn't do anything on here other than putting a little silver gem. So there's the little birdie. Here's a Christmas tree, and I did it in 2 different colorways, but I decided to be a little more neutral on this one. So I just basically did like the ribbons in the green, so I'm sticking with the basic green colors. And this says, "We wish you a Merry Christmas," and another type of ribbon. So I used the beige tones. I used an E50 series to do this, and the green, and then a brown trunk. Again, it's kind of hard to see, but there is a green ring around the trim the tree sentiment there. Here are a couple of little Santa images in here. This one, I did it so it kind of looks like he has maybe his night jammies on, but he's got little hearts there, and I put glossy accents on each one of the hearts. Very simple coloring. I just left everything white with the red hearts, and then I used the green, considered with the green stripes, and then he has his boots on. And I just did a little bit of texturing with the beard. And then the last one is a window type of card, and you've got some gems here just spaced around the ring. So you're going to have this front has been pre-done, except the ring you'll have to glue on. Then we've got a happy holiday sentiment. And when you open it up on the inside, there is the Santa Claus. And so he, again, pretty simple coloring with the 2 tones. And it's maybe kind of difficult, but you can see there is a blue kind of a haze. I used some tumbled glass just to put a little bit of color around the upper portion that maybe you would see through the window. This particular images will need to be fussy cut out to put in there, but I thought it was a little bit different. So those are the 6 cards that are in your kit. So in your kit, you will find that you have your sentiment sheet. It's in a cellophane pack, and what I've been doing lately is when you have any types of gems, I attach them to a piece of sticky tape, and then I attach that to the inside of your cellophane. So that's where your gems are. So hopefully they don't get lost that way. It's a lot easier. And then you will have your stack of cards here that are ready for you to go with the images inside of them, and all of the papers are pre-cut. So this is what we have in your pack. So everything you should have in the pack, and if you don't, please let us know and we will get that to you. So let's put these aside. I think what I'd like to do on my video again is you can try to color along, or you can just watch this and stop and start it. I have given you the information for Copic markers. So if you have any other alcohol markers, you are more than welcome to use them. I just teach off of Copic because that's what I have and that's what I know. But if you've purchased this kit, I'm using some basic greens. Okay, I've got some basic greens, so you could use your favorites. Mine tend to be more of a little bit of yellow green, but they're not a bright Kelly green. So I have some basic greens, a couple of my favorite reds. I have a couple of the blues for the bird, a couple of the yellows for some of the beak and accents. I have the gray tones I'm going to use for his boots, but you can make his boots red or green if you'd like. And then I also have some W's here, which are warmer grays to kind of work with his beard. Again, you can do anything that you want in that particular realm. So I'm going to bring this here. I am going to work with zooming you up a little bit. So what we have is top folding card base. We have a piece of green. Now I have cut these, and there could be a slight bit of an overhang on these, which you can trim. There's not much. I particularly don't like it when someone gives me a card kit and everything is cut to the point that I cannot fit the piece on the paper. It's so tight. So I don't want to do that to you. But then there's this piece of this black starry, and that's going to go in there. And again, feel free to use any other design if you don't like what I've given you. There is a red backer. There is the black backer. And then when this gets colored, we'll put that on there. So let me pull the original card. So it's going to look like this. And then I chose the deck the halls on the one that I did. I am not going to put these cards together. I don't think it's necessary that I put them together. I think you've got a picture that will, you know, enhance that and let you see that. So you can do that. So this is basically going to be with your green tones. Okay. And I am going to use my G4, my G20, my G43, and my G94. And I am going to start, and I don't know why, but I start in the middle on this one all the time. And I'm going to start with my G94, and I'm going to pull just a little bit of ink down, because to me, this is where it's going to be a little bit darker because you have an overhang. And again, these are whimsical images. So I'm doing about half of the whimsical image. I am also going to lay over here on the side, and I can probably maybe move my mat a little bit for you. There. I'm coloring, I use a glass mat. I'm coloring a little bit of my G94 there because I am a palette blender. I like to pick up ink and make some nice blends. I tend to be a little heavier colorer, so that helps me instead of just scribbling and blending. So I am blending right here. This is my 43. And then my last color is going to be my 20. Yes, I am not following basic Copic rules of you're looking for, you know, your G20, your G21 and on up. I use the colors that I like to get the blends. So I'm going to pick up some of the G93, or excuse me, G94 with my G20, and I'm just blending that line and making it be a little bit more of a blend. Now, it's gonna continue to blend out. I can add a little bit more, but it looks much better in person than where it's fading out there. I'm just gonna clean my tip of my marker off. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come back here and I'm gonna go just a little bit up here under this one and do a little bit of that with the 94. I'm gonna go back with my 43 and I'm gonna scribble a little bit more of that, and I am just kind of rubbing that in there. And I can always come back in here if I think I need on that one and add a little bit more color to blend that. Now I'm coming back with my 20, my G20, and again this is a very, very light marker, but I'm just working that through. Gonna pick up some of the darker color, my 94, and I'm just blending all that together. So that's the middle of the tree. I'm cleaning off that marker. I'm going to be using it again, but I clean that marker off, okay? So I am going to go back in with my G43 now, and I am going to, this is like just a coloring here. I'm going to go just about to the bottom, but I'm coloring around these circles. And these will be pretty forgiving. I'm gonna, you know, go all the way around all these little circles on the tree down here. I am working hard not to get green in that circle, but I'm gonna be able to cover it up with a red. It's gonna be a pretty dark color. So, coming down here, just kind of pulling some of that in there. Now I'm gonna just work the 20 down here at the bottom just a little bit, because I do want a little bit of relief down here. This time I'm going to take my 43 and I'm gonna scribble a little bit of that on my mat and pick it up, just so I've got those two blends that I can blend back in. I'm just picking up that little bit of color that's there on my mat. Again, it's not gonna hurt. You could do this if you like to clean out the caps of your pens, because I mean there's all kinds of ink in the cap of my pen, but sometimes it's just easier for me. So I'm just going back up in here. And again, this looks a little bit of a mottled, but it's all blending out. Okay, so there's the bottom of the tree. Now, the top of the tree, what we're gonna do is relatively the same thing I just did. I'm going to take the G43, and I'm gonna go up here and add a little bit of color here. There's my dog that's snoring. I hope you guys can't hear that too badly. I'm gonna put a little more color down on my mat because I had used most of that up. I'm gonna pick a little bit of that up now and just use it to blend that line that I have. And it is really difficult for me to show you that on the palette. I mean, you can maybe see the little bit of stuff that's over here, but it's relatively translucent there. Okay, so I've gone ahead and colored the top part of the tree. A little more color right there. Okay, so I've got basically the green done on the tree. So the same process would happen on this tree. You're not adding. Now again, you could add as much as you want on there. I'm looking for the other tree card. This particular tree here. This tree is going to be done basically the same way, okay, but it's just going to be green. that's the way I designed it. You can design it however you want. There are a couple of rings on the bottom of the tree, like where I basically, they're almost, mine are relatively covered up, but the brown tree with some red like wrapped around it, which you don't have to do, but this is the same thing. So I really don't see that we need to go over this one, okay? So my greens I feel are done. I'm gonna go ahead and cap these for this project and just lay them over here. So I chose to do some yellow dots and some red, okay, on my tree. So the two reds I have are R14 and R27. So R14, I'm just going to go in here and I'm coloring each one of these circles. Again, you can choose to do what you want. You can see that you've got green, black and white, red, and black paper. Again, you could cut your own layers. If you don't like the selections of the papers, you could pick some of your own, if that's what you like. So I'm just going through here, simple coloring on this, coloring the red circles. And if you'd like to add a little bit of shading to the side, I'm gonna go in with a 27, and I'm just adding a little like half moon C to the side, which gives maybe these balls, ornaments, a little bit of depth. You can go back over it if you'd like and color it again. I don't think it's necessary because it just leaves, I'll go back over this one because I think I missed getting that. But you can see that it really just gives a shadow to the bottom to the side of the ornament. They don't have to be perfect, but you can again go back if you think you need to. If you don't like that, go back and color them in. Okay, so that's the red for the bottom of the tree. Then we have the yellow. We have these yellow ornaments here. So on these, I chose like a Y18. And I'm just gonna do the Y18 here. And color in these circles. I am going to color this circle on the top of the tree. We are going to cover that with a gem, but I like to have it colored just so that it's not white. Okay, now I have a Y35. And again, I'm just adding those little C's. You don't notice this as much, or those little areas, and that's done. Okay. Now, the only thing we have is the trunk of the tree. And again, you could add any type of shading that you'd like. I started with a E25, which is just a basic brown. And I colored in the bottom of the tree. Again, these are pretty simple images is what I would say, kind of on the whimsical side. Then I'm going to take the E29, and what I'm going to do is just add a little bit underneath the tree there and coming down the side where it's a little darker, just so we get a little definition underneath there. Coming back with my 25 and blending that in a little bit. Okay, so that's one image that is done. We are done with that image. It's completed. You would take this, and again, I have got these guys are basically layered on top of each other. These are all layered on top of each other. And then this layer has been foam taped on top for some dimension. If you don't like dimension, that's perfectly fine. I like dimension. And then I put some little bit of foam tape underneath my, it's kind of hard for me to get it in there. There's a little bit of foam tape underneath the sentiment. So again, that's totally your choice of what you want to do, okay? Let's see if I can grab my gems. get them untaped from the side of my bag here. So if you can see the gems that are on there, this is the gold gem that goes on top of the tree. Okay? Put those right there where I can get to them again. So that's one of the cards that's done at that point. I mean, and I think that the next one, next one will be super simple for you to do with the other tree. So this guy is going to be pretty easy to do. And I think you'll get the same fundamentals off of on that one that you would on the other guy over here, because you have two of these. You have inside of there, you have your image, okay, you have your card base, you have just a little red print. This red print goes directly onto your card base. Then I have the green layer that goes underneath this, and then I put that foam tape on there, okay? So that's that particular card. Now, let's talk a little bit about these two guys, because there's two of them, and they look very, very similar. Okay, so you're gonna do your face and your nose. Then you're going to do, I chose again to do a very just simple green. It's just gonna, there's no really shading, a little bit on the red. And this is what I did on my guy, on my Santa. Again, you can color your Santa however you'd like. Then I took the stripes on this one and kept them the same and just did the red hearts. So they're pretty simple colors, okay? At this point, let's do this guy here. Okay. So what I am going to do is I'm going to do his nose first, and that way you can do what you really want with the with his beard. Some people may want it to be a dark color, but I'm going to color his nose first, and I am kind of avoiding a little bit of that highlight. It's there, but this I'm coloring whatever you would do with your facial kind of colors, but I am using some basic skin tone colors is what I'm using. I'm going to put a couple of my markers back off my table here. So that was an E50. Now I'm going to go in with an E51, and I'm just, again, adding a little bit of shadow on that side. Then I'm going to go in with my E53, and I'm adding just a little more, which is getting it a little bit darker. Okay, I will go back up the side of it and blend it in. I do have an R20 here. I haven't listed it on there, but if you really want it to be a little pinker, you can add a little bit of R20 to it. So I am going to go back up and just use an E50. I'm not going to do the 51, and I'm just blending this line out just a little bit so that he has a little colored nose. Okay, so that gives me my flesh tone, or just that little rosy nose. And again, you could make it as rosy as you would like. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to block in the green tones. So the two greens I'm going to choose for those green tones are the G43 and the G94. Those are the ones I'm going to do. So I'm going to go in and just start choosing a spot, and I am just adding that color, just sketching it very simply to make the stripe. Okay, and we'll go down here and catch a couple of these lines on his hat. Okay, then we're going to get a couple of them on his sleeve. You just kind of have to see how it's printed. If you go out, you'll be able to pick it up with that line. And then I'm going to choose a couple of his stripes in his leggings. Okay. So there, those are pretty well blocked in. So now I'm gonna go in with my 94, the G94, and I'm gonna catch the other parts of the stripes. And I'm just coloring in the rest of these areas on the stripe. So it's just color blocking again. This is very simple coloring. Again, these images are whimsical, but they're so much fun. Okay, there's like a line right here next to his belly. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see that. I don't know if I can really zoom in any further, but I think that's about as tight as I'm going to be able to get that. And then we're going to finish up his socks down here. Okay, there's that. Okay. So we pretty much finished up the part that's the green, okay, for that. Now I've got a couple of dark colors. I can go ahead and I can do his boots now. I am going to clean up a little bit of my ink. I'm just using a little spray bottle of alcohol and an old cloth, cleaning up my little palette area there. So what I'm going to do is I am going to block in my shoes or my boots. I'm using the C8, and what I do know is this little area that returns back, those are going to be pretty dark, okay? Shadow there. I know that most of this down in here is going to be pretty dark. So I'm going to capture that. Again, if you think they're black boots, black, you really need to make it kind of a gray, because then you'll see nothing. I am losing a little bit of my stitch marks, but it won't be bad. So I've done that. I am going to go ahead while I have this marker out, and I'm going to put a little bit of color on my mat so I can pick it up. Okay. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my C8, my C6 now. And again, you can use, variants. You could use a 5. I'm going to come in and I'm just doing tiny little tapping strokes off of that line, just a little bit, because it'll kind of soften that. And then I'll bring it in here. The biggest thing is to try to leave some white space. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to color this. I'm going to bring it up, because again, this artist has given you, Diane's given you a point where there should be like a little bit of probably a highlight on the boot. Looks like I went out of the line there, but I can probably clean that up. And actually my sentiment could cover some of that. So I'm covering that up. So now I'm going to come in with like a C3. And I am going to work this line just a little bit. I'm going to work this out. And again, this can have the lightest gray on it because it's not going to be totally white, but I'm working that line out and I'm working this out. Okay. Things are going to start. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit of my palette that I put down there, which you could use a C6 or the C8. And I'm just, again, softening that line. And this is going to continue to soften out. But I can kind of move a little bit of that color. Okay? And then I'll just go down in here and soften this out again. Just a little bit more. Okay, and those are his boots. You know, I could sit and add a little bit more color if I want to, just to soften some of these lines. There. Okay, so those are the boots. I mean, all the boots are going to be done pretty much the same way. And then what I do is I add a little bit of glossy accents. When all my cards are done, I'll put some glossy accents on the these little shiny spots to kind of make them think that they're the tops of his boots, okay? So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna use, I tend to use W's when it is like beard type of thing. It's a white beard. Okay, you can use cool tones or you can use warm tones. I tend to use the W's because I think that, that to me, that's just what I use for my beard. So I'm gonna start with a W1, and what I'm gonna do is I am going to, and again, I'm gonna turn my card just a little bit, but I'm coming out and I'm laying my marker at the nose, but then I'm lifting and flicking it out. Because again, where this little mustache, it's probably gonna be a little darker. So if you can see that, I've just left that light at the end. Now I'm gonna do the same thing. At this point, I'm gonna come in here under his nose and I'm gonna laying and flicking it down. Laying and flicking it, laying and flicking it. Just trying to get a little bit of texture in his beard. And again, you don't have to get texture. You could just kind of color it, but I've laid it and flicked it down. Okay. Now, if it dries, you could go back in with another layer. Mine's not dry yet. I can tell that it's still a little wet. Or if you really want some striations like this one, you can see I've kind of got beard hair there. You could come in with a W2 or a little bit darker, or let it dry and go back in with your W1 marker. And I'm gonna go up in here again because it's gonna be a little bit darker. And I'm adding it more off of the tip of my marker, not the side of my marker. But I'm getting it a little bit and I'm kind of just letting those markers go. And then I can also come up a little bit from the bottom and put a little bit there. If I think I need to have a little bit more color underneath his nose on his mustache, again, we can do the same thing. Okay? So I've just put a little bit of texture into his beard. So that's the beard. So I used, again, a W1, a W2, and a W0. So those are kind of the markers that I used for that to do his beard. So now the next thing that we have is we have the hat, build the top part of his hat, and then we'll have all the little hearts, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, again, reds are like strong. So I'm gonna use by R27. And I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna carefully just kind of outline this a little bit on this side, because again, this is kind of drooped down. It's gonna have a little bit of color down here where it gets into his nose. I'm just kind of blocking this out a little bit. Okay, and I'm gonna come over here to this side and do very similar thing on this side, that we can just kind of get a little bit more depth right here where that is, and I can pull this out just a little bit from his nose. And I am also now going to lay a little bit of red. That's the R27 there, so I can pick that up, because I'm going to go back in with an R14, which is a lot brighter. And I'm gonna start in the center and I'm gonna color this, but I'm gonna come in and migrate into that red area, because I don't really want this image to have white space in it, but I want it to appear that there is a highlight where it's going up, you know, into the top. Now I'm gonna pick up some of the R27 that I laid on the palette, and as I bring that together, I'm gonna be able to kind of blend this together. I like doing this only because it allows me to keep this image a little more simpler with a couple of colors, but it also helps me keep my saturation points down just a little bit so that the paper is not totally saturated with the ink, and it'll take some more, but it also allows me to blend. Because you can see I have a lot of saturation on the back of that. And if I wanted to, I could come back in with a little more color down in some of these nooks and cranny areas here, and just add just a little bit more if I think it needs for definition. Okay, so then there's that red. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to recap my 14, and all of the hearts were done with my R27. So I know R24 is a real popular Copic one. I don't know if I have, no I don't on this one. As my dog shakes her head. Some of these markers I've put small ends on, the little nibs. I believe maybe it's, I don't know if it's on my 29. Yes, on my 29 marker, I've replaced the nib with the chisel from a little bullet tip. So I'll probably replace this one eventually. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to just color all of these red hearts, which it's kind of hard for me to color them and stay totally out of the camera. But I'm just going over these and I'm coloring the red hearts, okay? And I'm really trying to be a little bit cautious here, not to get it into the white. There's a tiny little spot there, a tiny little spot there, and then, sorry you guys, that's my dog and she's yawning. I have a Saint Bernard and she's being very, you know, like in my face at this moment. I thought I could do this video without her bothering me, but it doesn't seem like I'm going to be able to. I may have to get up and give her a treat to calm her down. Okay. So this is just a matter of coloring, okay? All these little images. And again, I tend to do my reds at the end only because I know that red's a difficult color and it's a dark color, and I want those to be kind of at the end where I'm not taking an opportunity to blend that or smear any of that. Okay, so those are done. What I would do is I would take and I would put some glossy accents maybe on the nose. I actually put the glossy accents on all of the red hearts. I went back in and did that with all the red hearts and put a little bit on his shoes. So it's a pretty simple color. Gives you the opportunity though to practice a little bit with just tedious work on those, but then just accent it. It's very simple, very fun. So he's done. What I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and clean up some of my markers here and put those away. I'm going to clean up the palette that I have on my desk. Okay. And let's do this guy here, and then we'll do the bird. And I think that will get you pretty well down the path of what we've got going on here. Okay, there's that guy. Okay. So this one, you've got a slim fold, you've got a piece of green that's going to go there. Again. Then you've got a piece of pattern paper. Then you've got a piece of craft, and then you have your image, okay? And then you've got your whatever you choose on your, I use Trim the Tree because I thought it was just kind of fun. So let's go ahead and color this image. And this particular image, I'm using my 50, my E50, my E51, and my E53 in those beige kind of colors. So I'm going to color those first, and then I'll go back in and add my green. So I'm going to start with my E53 only because what I want to do is I want to emphasize where the tree is coming around and get a little bit of definition here, where I think it would be a little darker. And again, just a little bit of darkness there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do half of this to somewhat keep a little bit of a wet edge in there. Okay. Now I skipped this because I used like the yellow tone with some brown in there just to give it more of a ribbon look. So then I'm going to come back in with the 51, and with the 51 I'm going to take and just blend this out just a little bit. I'm kind of going pretty much over it, but blending it out, but still leaving some white space there so that I still have room to add my E50, because that's going to be, I think, a higher area. Again, not totally making this be something that it has got a lot of shadows, but it will help it a little bit. And then there's the E50. And I'm just going to finish up with my E50 and pull it all together. I think E50 is pretty neutral, where those others have a little bit of color, but it's still kind of giving us a very neutral brown type of feel. And they're all blending together. Okay. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to reverse that. I'm going to go back and finish out with, again, starting, I did that because I want to keep a little bit of a wet edge. And again, when it gets bigger, I can go a little further with the base color here. I can move in just a little further. But again, I'm just adding that color. Then I've got this, which, is going to be underneath the tree, which will be a little darker. So again, you can go over it a couple of times. And then there's this piece right here. Okay. So then I'm going to come back in with my 51, and I'm going to pick up some of this. And again, I'm going to move it in, just blend that, coming in here. I'm blending that, blending up there. And again, this is getting down at the bottom of the tree, so there probably isn't going to be a whole lot of color. Now I'm going to come back in with my 50. And again, I start from this side over here and just kind of blend in. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add the yellow tone to this, and I may, again, change my mind here. If you've got like if you've got a Y21, I may go ahead and include that back in. I think maybe the Y21 gives me the yellow I wanted. I probably missed maybe writing that down. But the Y21 is a little bit more mellow, but still gives me the look of a little bit of maybe a goldish ribbon. And I can go over the edge of it just a little bit more to make it get some depth on that side. I think this marker is going to need some ink soon. Okay, so I'm giving that a little bit of color there. And then I've got the Christmas down here. Okay. And the other thing you can do just to add a little bit more definition if you want to is you could go over this area, this line right here, just to kind of make it some definition. Now, again, did I go up in the other one? Yes, I'm going to add some green on there, so it's going to be covered up. But just to make it look like there's a little bit of definition, a little bit more of a shadow involved when we get over here, but I'm lightly just going up here, and there's going to be a little bit of a shadow. But the green's going to cover any of that up that I've gone over. Even if you want to go up with this 53 and do it kind of on the Christmas ribbon. This is just adding a little bit of maybe a shadow where that ribbon is going on there. Okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take again my G94 and my G43, and my 94 I'm going to just add a little bit. This is very much like we've been doing. This side of the tree I feel has got a little bit more, and the left side's got a little more of a shadow. So I'm just giving a little bit of color there. Okay, then I'm going to come back in with my G43, and I'm just blending that out. So I'm going right over where I had any of that brown that I had put there, that E53, just to give a shadow. And I'm blending this out. Okay. I hope these images are things that you guys think are fun. I know it's a little whimsical. I'm always looking for something a little different. And when these images came out, I think there's another set. I can quickly, I think, lay my hands on them. I just have to get out of my seat before I close this video up and show you the two sets I chose. So there we've done that. So we finished that all the way down. I am just lightly kind of scrubbing with the tip end of my marker to blend this in. And again, if you have your favorite green tones, I have my favorite greens, which these are, I think, just kind of some nice greens. I have my favorite yellow greens that I like to use. If you guys have taken classes, you know that I'm also somebody that likes to put a pretty bright green, like a YG21 in with my green mix. And then a lot of times I like to add some blue green in there, just because it's something different. That's kind of one of my things. So there, we've colored that in, and we've got some good definition. It looks lighter on this side. So we've got the green done. The next thing I need to do is I need to, I'll do my bottom, my trunk. I'm just capping up some markers here. Okay. And again, I'm using those same two brown tones that I used before. So I'm going to use my my E29. I'm going down here just on this side, just a little bit of color. Then I'm just going to work that color out. Okay. So I'm just going in on top of that line. And again, you can have a line there. I've colored a long time now, and I've gotten in the habit of, it doesn't have to be a total blend. It doesn't have to be matchy-matchy like that. I like the fact that I can leave a little bit of a line. So I'm just going across this with some little short strokes, and I like having a line on there. It really makes it look a lot better. So there is that guy, he's done. I've got a little spot there that looks like I might have gone off, which again, depending on where you put your, I can just take my zero marker and I'll get rid of that, okay? So there's that guy. Now, what I did is I colored the red heart. So I will go in and I will just color this red heart. So I'm adding that little bit of red in there. And I used a clear Wink, I think clear Wink Stella gives you a lot of bang for your buck, but I used the clear Wink Stella. I did that on my ribbon, okay, just to give it a little bit of shine. I love using the clear Wink Stella. I think I probably need to get a new Wink Stella. I think it's great to add just that little bit of sparkle. And again, then you can also use the clear Wink Stella. You can go in and you can put over the sparkle, you can put some glossy accents on the heart. And then I have all of these tiny sparkly, there's 10 sparkly gems. You should have 10 of these. These are those new Pink and Main gems. All of these are. I love these Pink and Main gems. But what I have done, I did this, I went ahead and I just scattered my gems so that maybe they look like Christmas balls with some more sparkle. So that's that card. This one I chose the image of Trim the Tree. And so when I did the Trim the Tree image here, so I went ahead and just, you know, I cut them out. I leave just a hint of a border there. I can probably, let me see if I can just do one right quick here. So when I do these, and again, you can cut them up, they're pretty straight, but you can do these with a trimmer. I find I just work better with scissors at this point, but I've cut the Trim the Tree out. Okay. So I have a little bit of a white border. And then what I do is, you can do it either, I think I will use let's see what the 43 looks like. I've done this a couple of times, so I've done the, you know, it's something I'm able to do, but I'm laying the tip of my marker on the edge of this, and I'm just colorizing. That keeps me from getting anything, but I'm just colorizing the edge of this. It allows me to kind of stay in those lines, and then I'm not doing it this way, trying to. So I'm just going, and you can do it with I have my chisel or my brush tip, but I've done it probably enough that I know how to do it. Okay, so now that has a little green line around it, and when you lay it on something, it almost looks like you've layered it. So that's kind of a cheater's trick. But then I would also put a little bit of foam tape and just hover it so that even emphasizes that more. So this card has been completed, just you putting that together. So there's that one. So the last one that I think I'll show you, because I really don't think I need to go over the other ones. They're pretty simple. You know, this particular one, you're just gonna, again, go in there and color in like I did the other one. And just, it's pretty easy fussy cut. And cut it out, and then I blended just a little spot behind him and the circle and put him on there. Okay, so this is the last one that I want to show you on camera, if I can find my blank one. I've got all my stuff over here. Okay. Okay, so we have the birdie, and you have your paper, you have your snowflake border. That's going to go directly onto the glue to the paper. Then I also glued the, adhered the silver square directly to the paper. Then when I got done coloring the bird, I mounted him on the red, and he was going to be popped up off of there. So let's go ahead, and there is this last one. This, I chose the Warm Winter Wishes for my sentiment, and there is the little gem to go in the snowflake. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave his eye non-colored, okay? His beak is going to be my 2 yellows, and then this is where I'm layering all that E50 series here. So those are the areas that I usually start in first. So I'm gonna do his beak, which I'm going to do in a Y18. And again, whatever colors you think you want, you have blue, silver, and red is what you've been given on this. So again, I tried to make him Christmassy, but that's what you've got. Then I'm going to use a Y35 and just add a little bit more color right down there by where his beak fastens in, and there's my Y18 beak done, okay? So his beak is done. Now I want to go back with my E50 series, and I'm trying to uncap these all so they're uncapped. And we're going to color this portion down here, which is kind of his belly. And I'm just coloring all of this in with my E50. I think I need to do some marker fills. Then I'm going to come in with my E51, and I'm just going to come up with a little bit of color down there. And maybe just a little bit under his belly. Okay, I'm going to come back with my E50 and just let that go. So I'm going to add some dots in there, but I want this to dry. So I will add some dots for some texture, but I want to wait until that's dry because I don't want them to blend. I want them to be dots. So at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and I can choose. You can be very tedious with this, with his socks. Okay, this particular one down here, his legs, I've got my R20. This is where it's going to be a little darker because they're over, his legs are overlapped. There's going to be a shadow right there. But there's not going to be much. So if you really want to get into shadowing, I mean, it's adding just tiny little lines here. And then you're going to go back in. I'm going to lay a little bit of my R27 on my mat in case I need to pick it up. But I'm going back in with my R14, my lighter color, and I'm just kind of blending those in. And again, I don't care if there's a little bit of a shadow line there, but I'm just kind of just with the tips of my marker coming in there. And there are some lines there, but it's just like a shadow line right there, okay? And then we're gonna come in and we're gonna do kind of the same thing with the greens. And again, I'm going to use my 2 darker greens. I'm using my G94. So I'm just barely laying a line where his legs overlap there. A little bit, I'm doing tiny little pieces of strokes with my with the top of my end of my marker. I've done this a long time, so I can do that. I know a lot of people like some of the other various markers because they have a bullet nib, and I probably was out of camera, I'm sorry. So you could see that. So now I'm coming up here and just dabbing these in. And now I'm coloring this in. So there's a little line there, but it looks perfectly fine, and it's gonna melt out just a little bit as I go over that, okay? So while I have my greens out, let's go ahead and we'll start up here on his cap. And I made this one red, so now I'm just gonna come in here and make this a little bit the green. I'm gonna bring some green down in here because it's gonna be shadowed back there on the back side, just a little bit here on the front. This particular one's kind of really gonna be dark. And then there's this right here, okay? Now I'm gonna use my G43, if I get the right end here, and I'm going to put these together. I'm gonna put a little bit of my 94 on my mat here, so if I wanna pick it up just to break that harsh line, and I'm kind of, I shouldn't say scrubbing it in, but I'm going back and forth trying to get that line out of there. Okay, just a little bit coming in again with that 43. Just a little bit here. And a lot of that I can work some of this out, but it just helps to add just a little bit of color on the tip of my marker to get it started. And as I said, it's not gonna hurt my marker any, okay? So there's definition there, and you definitely can tell that there's some highlights, okay? So I've got the green on the bird is done, so I can recap those. Now let's go ahead and let's do the same thing that we've done in the past on the red, okay? I'm going to bring in a little bit of this red down here on the back side of his hat, this little stocking cap. I'm just going to do a little bit again because it's curving down here. And as it gets a little, I don't need to put as much on the front because, again, as this goes around, now this is probably going to be pretty shaded in the red, and then we'll leave that. So I've just blocked that in. To me, this is an easier way. I know I like doing dark to light, or light to dark rather, but this is what I think works best when I'm really trying to block something in, because a lot of times you don't leave that white space that you need to get the highlight, so we come in so far. And that's another thing that I have found sometimes on smaller areas like this, instead of doing 3 colors, 2 colors work really well. So now in order to pick this up, I'm coming in and picking up some of that color that I have on my mat, because I was using that R27. I'm picking it up with my R14, and I'm just pushing it out, but still leaving some highlight there. So there's definitely some definition there. And this is another thing that when you're doing this blocking of colors, I try not to go too far ahead. I want these colors to still be a little wet so that I can, get a blend out of them. So I'm adding just a little bit to get that blend. So he's got his hats done. So at this point, what we have left is we have his shoes and we have the body of the bird, and go back to finish in all these dots. So this is dry. I know this is dry. I'm gonna go in with my 53, and I'm just doing the tip of my marker. I'm going down, straight down, and I'm barely kissing the paper, and I'm adding little dots, okay? So I've added little dots, and they're going to be more concentrated down here, but as I move out and I can go a little bit, like maybe there's some shadow, I'm going further, I'm putting more space, and I am barely kissing the paper, okay? Those look a lot darker than what they actually do in person. Then I'm going to come back with my 51, and I'm going to come back in and do a little bit more just around where those are, okay? Just to kind of spread them out, okay? I can finish it off with my 50 by coming in and just adding some more up in the area at the very top, and just kind of going on top of them. It may, soften some of them. And I put the little dots on his belly, okay? So I just use those, but it's important that you do that when the markers are dry to get the dots, otherwise they'll blend in. But again, if you want them to blend in and you don't want the distinction of those dots, then that's, again, something that you can do. So again, I'm kind of cleaning up an area here. I am going to get rid of what I have here on my palette. That's what I love, working on a glass mat. You guys, if you don't have one, they're fabulous. So what we're going to do is we will go in, and I am going to block in a little bit with my BG01. And with my BG01, I'm going to block in just a little bit underneath his hat here, because I think there's going to be a little bit of a shadow there underneath his hat. And this is a large kind of image, so it's kind of working a little bit faster. I'm going around his wing a little bit because I think there'll be a shadow underneath his wing. There's probably going to be a shadow right down here where his belly is. Okay, I am going to lay a little bit of this. It's kind of hard to see on my palette, but I'm laying a little bit of that on my palette. Now I'm coming in with my BG 000. So there's nothing between BG 000 and BG. There is no 00. So it goes BG 000 to 01. And so I'm coming in here and I am working this area for my bird, okay, with this marker, and I'm going in circles. Just again, it's blending out some, but I'm working it through. I'm gonna get his wing there. I'm coming up in front of the eye. Okay. And I'm coloring that through. And again, he doesn't look very good. But I'm gonna come over here and pick up some of that marker and start adding it in to blend this out. And if I think I need a little bit more marker than those colors, I can also go in with my BG02 and I can lay in some BG02. Sorry, that sounds so squeaky there. But I'm adding some of that, but I'm still picking it up with my BG 000, and I'm just working that line. Okay, so moving that line around, still getting some definition. I would like it if you guys do watercoloring or anything. It's kind of working like a watercolor, how you just kind of are layering. But again, I find that when I just kind of block some things in like that, it works for me to not get a total bleed through and not do a total extra color. And I can always add more to it. I can put a little more definition up here underneath this hat because of maybe there's be a shadow there. And I'm gonna do a little bit more back down in here on the back side of the bird and kind of work out that line that I had there. Okay. And I can look, I've got a pretty good saturation on the back of my paper. Okay. But also I think it's important that you let it sit for just a little while, because after you color, it all needs to kind of blend together. I know some dye-based inks, when you're ink blending, do that, but it all blends together. So to me, I'm a good palette blender where I can go in and block things out, use my lighter color, and when you know your marker colors, it's easier. A lot of times you can do things out of the tip. A lot of people do the tip to tip, where they lay their lighter marker on the darker marker, pick up some of that ink, and then they go in and they can lay it down. Okay? I particularly do like palette blending. To me, it just, I don't know, it makes sense to me. I can pick up what I want and go. So there's my bird. Now I still need to do his tail. Okay, so I'm going to just pick up a little bit of ink here on the back for his tail. I'll pick up a little bit off my palette just to get that blended in and go out to just a light blue at the tip of his tail. And if you wanted to go with a little more color here, once again, just I add a little V there, because that'll give us a little more definition where his tail is. And again, it's a whimsical. I don't think it's important to necessarily get lots of bird feathers in there. Okay, so there's that. I didn't put any color on the ball. What I did is just a total wing Castella in there on his little pom-pom on there. And then the last thing that we have is the boots on here. So again, we're going back to our darker, our gray markers. I have the CO8 here. And I'm going to, this guy's going to be pretty dark there. I'm just blocking in down here where these little boots or shoes are. And again, you could make them any color that you want, okay? It's a little bit of C8. Now I'm going to come in with a C6, and I'm just blending a little bit further, picking up a little bit of dark here. Gonna blend up with some dark. Gonna lay a little bit of that color down. I'm gonna pick up my C3, and I'm blending this together. Again, I turn my paper. Paper can turn. It's the way I color. And if I need to pick up a little bit more, just to, again, work through blending the shoes together. So there they are. The little boots are done. So I've colored him, and you'll just layer again. I would layer him on the red. I would add foam tape, and I would adhere these strictly. Now I made it as a top fold. I'm a top fold person. You can make a side fold, and you layer them together. So those are the cards, okay? Those are the items that we have. I think that, you know, we covered most all of these. If you have any problems at all, just let me know. But again, you have the choices. Go ahead and kind of pop these out just a little bit for you. You have the choice to color them, I think, the way that you would like to color them. The tree. And there's this guy here. And I'm missing one more right here. And I'm going to get up. You got just a second. I just had to go to another little area here, and I'll show you. This is the Dylusions set that has the tree. So we did these 3 trees. There's one here that just kind of, this would be really pretty if you wanted to use, watercolor it and do some shiny things on it. Then this one says, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. So there's that set there that I used. That's called Tree Time. And then there's a little birdie facing the other way. You have 2 Merry Christmas sentiments. The birdie we did, and we did the 2 little like Santa Claus elves. This is Just Robin Along is what the name of this one is. So those are the ones that we used. I hope you enjoyed this class. Please let us know if this is a format that's good for you, because I know it's easier for us to get this out to a lot of people. And not having as much time to get people into the store. So hopefully we can do some more virtual classes like that, and especially with the weather going like it is in Iowa. So if you'd like this class, let us know if you think it's something that we would like, want us to do again. So don't forget to ask any questions that you have. Just be sure you get them back to me. I want you guys to be satisfied and answer anything that you've got. So have a great day. Hope you enjoyed the class, and color away.